Thank you for watching or listening to this free podcast of the Young Turks. We want to make sure that you get some portion of the show every day, but if you want the full show, which is actually 5 segments, come become a member and support independent media as well. tytnetwork.com/join. Meanwhile, enjoy the free podcast. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you on Heart-Pounding Tuesday.
Heart pounding.
I don't know about you, my heart's pounding. Okay, dun 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 dun. So we got huge primaries tonight, maybe the biggest of the whole season. Kansas, Missouri, Michigan, Washington. Would we have guessed a couple of years ago that those were the biggest primaries of 2018? No. Are they? Yes. Why? We got 13 Justice Democrats up tonight. Including fan favorite TYT member, Wolfpack volunteer, Bernie Sanders delegate, Brent Welder. Okay, James Thompson, Sarah Smith, Dorothy Gasquet, Abdul El Sayed for governor of Michigan, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush in Missouri, and I can go on and on and on, and I will throughout the night. But first of all, it is time to panic. It's not too late yet. The polls are open everywhere. Grab your TYT app and get in line if you're in one of those states. There's a special election in Ohio as well, and a couple other elections out there. But make sure you go out and vote. Later I'm going to bring you a shirt that reminds you to vote. I'm going to do everything I can to get you to vote. So tonight, either a bunch of those guys win, including Brent, and we go nuts, and we are on our way. And we've got a caucus, okay? Or a tragic loss, and it'll be massively disappointing. So that gets settled tonight. But if Welder wins, Ocasio, Welder, Sanders, here comes justice. Okay, so lots on the line tonight, but we got a whole show for you guys. For you before that, by the way, tonight's election night coverage, obviously immediately following the Young Turks at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, and brought to you guys and by you guys, the members, tyt.com/join to become a member and support home of progressives, as we have supported progressives who are running. And finally, on tonight's coverage, I would argue this is the lucky trio. I think this was the 3 that were together in Michigan when Bernie Sanders pulled out that 20-point upset in 2016. Me, John Iadarola, and Jimmy Dore. So open the door. Here comes justice. Okay, let's Let's hope that that's the case. Yeah. All right, Casper. Anna's got stories in the beginning that is going to explain why we care so much. What is the change that we need? And I don't know how many other people are covering it. Credit to the print journalists who covered it, but monumentally important stories here in the beginning that you're not going to see in a lot of other places.
Yes, we come across a lot of devastating, depressing stories. So I feel like I'm almost, I don't know how to explain it. Like I've built up an emotional tolerance to it. But some of these stories enraged me. So I'm excited to be able to share them with you guys. All right. Wells Fargo has dealt with a number of scandals. First, there were issues involving opening bank accounts under their customers' names without consenting with their customers or getting permission from their customers. There were also some issues involving high fees related to auto loans that were given to customers through Wells Fargo. And now there is a new scandal that Wells Fargo is involved in, and we're going to give you the details in just a minute. But before we get to those details, in an effort to clean up its image, Wells Fargo spent a considerable amount of money to air these ads during the finals for the NBA. So let's take a look at that.
You know, before we go to it, I'm just going to jump in and say, look, keep in mind how many people's houses they foreclosed on. And we're going to give you all the details after that. Okay. While you watch the ad, think about all the people forcibly removed from their homes who did not deserve to be removed from their homes. Okay.
We know the value of trust. We were built on it. Back when the country went west for gold, we were the ones who carried it back east. By steam, by horse, by iron horse. Over the years, we built on that trust. We always found the way. Until we lost it. But that isn't where the story ends. It's where it starts again. With a complete recommitment to you. Fixing what went wrong, making things right, and ending product sales goals for branch bankers. So we can focus on your satisfaction. We're holding ourselves accountable to find and fix issues proactively. Because earning back your trust is our greatest priority. It's a new day at Wells Fargo, but it's a lot like our first day. Wells Fargo, established 1852, re-established 2018.
I kept thinking watching that ad, and I remember watching it live, thinking, please. And now, of course, a news story out confirming what we had feared, that there ain't no new day at Wells Fargo.
There certainly isn't. So they talk about fixing what went wrong, holding ourselves accountable, and a recent example of themselves holding themselves accountable is essentially foreclosing on people, more people, wrongly, and then blaming it on a computer glitch. So let me give you the details. Between April of 2010 and October of 2015, a malfunctioning Wells Fargo tool miscalculated whether homeowners could qualify for a federally backed program to modify mortgage payments and keep their homes.
Look, two important things there before you get more details. One is, it's funny how the computer glitches are always to the benefit of the corporations.
Exactly.
You almost never see a story out where they go, well, computer glitch, man, we wound up giving people homes they didn't deserve. No, you're always taking away their homes that they actually were paying on and that they could have gotten some benefits for that you denied them. It's always to their benefit. And they keep telling us it's honest mistakes. I'm beginning to wonder if they're honest. I'm not wondering that, I know that. And whether there are even mistakes or if this is done on purpose. And if secondarily, if you're thinking, well, I mean, we got a new Wells Fargo, that was 2010 to 2015, and 2018, it's totally new and fine. Well, let's find out a little bit later in the story if they have addressed it in a way that would regain your trust.
So, as a result of this so-called computer glitch, 625 qualified customers were denied a loan modification, causing at least 400 to lose their homes. So these are people who would qualify for loan modifications. That would give them the ability to keep their homes. They wouldn't get foreclosed, right? So they're blaming a computer glitch for this miscalculation. And for the error that caused some 400 foreclosures, Wells Fargo is offering its customers $8 million, which sounds like a lot, but that only amounts to around $20,000 per customer, assuming all 400 were foreclosed upon in error.
So, a number of things here. Wells Fargo is bigger in the West, and so that obviously includes places like LA, San Francisco, where if your house was foreclosed upon back in 2010, the difference that between the housing price back then and what it is today is gigantic. $20,000 ain't gonna cover it by a long shot, let alone the emotional trauma and all the other things that happen. But $20,000, of course it depends on the house, but are you kidding me overall?
Okay, let's just stop for a second. $20,000 will buy you a home almost nowhere in the country. And I mean that. I mean that because it's something that I've been looking into. This is the issue that for some reason, I don't know why, housing. I care a lot about it. And so $20,000, that is a joke, especially if you're someone on the West Coast who needlessly lost your home because of this glitch in the Wells Fargo system.
I mean, Wells Fargo says, yeah, look, we had a computer mistake and then we kicked you out of your home and maybe sometimes your childhood home or home that you had been living in for decades and now you're 74 and we threw you out in the streets. We forcibly removed you from there and that home now, the prices have risen significantly in the areas that I was discussing between 2010 and 2018. That home might be worth $200,000 more now, and you might have been able to stay in it the whole time, but sorry, so here's $20,000. You don't even have a home anymore because we foreclosed on you. What the hell are you gonna do with the $20,000?
So Elizabeth Warren has been known for going after Wells Fargo specifically, very aggressively. In fact, during some Senate hearings, Elizabeth Warren went after the executives of Wells Fargo with an aggressive line of questioning, and I was grateful that she did that. She's doing the same thing here. So in a tweet she wrote, because of an error Wells Fargo made, 400 of its customers lost their homes.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
What's the bank doing to make it right? Setting aside a few $1,000s for each of the people affected? Pathetic. The execs who oversaw this, including CEO Tim Sloan, should be fired. And I agree with her 100%.
So when you go to talk about the bankers and you say, well, maybe they should be fired, people in Washington go, whoa, Elizabeth Warren. Okay, nevertheless, she persisted, but hey, take it easy. These are our top donors that you're talking about, and their lives would be significantly affected. It's just a complete computer glitch. You know whose lives were significantly affected? 400 families who were thrown out of their homes. But we never care about the average American. Whenever there's a conversation on television or in Washington, those people, as if they don't exist. Their pain is not felt in the country clubs and in the cocktail party circuit. But hey, they know CEO Tim such and such. Golly gee, Tim's got a lot of kids in private school, and what's he gonna do without the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars he's earned every single year robbing people? Now, I say robbing, they get upset. Now, so let's go back to whether this mistake was honest or nefarious. And it's actually more complicated and nuanced than that. So this mistake in particular, they can come up with 100 different excuses. I'm talking about overall, why did the mistakes almost always favor the corporations? Because if they don't favor the corporation and they're losing money on it, it will be noticed immediately. And it will be addressed immediately and with great urgency. Yep. We have lost $17 in that division. How dare they? Oh my God, there was a computer glitch. Fire someone. It cost us 17 bucks. Fire him, get him out of the building and fix it right now, right? But if it's a mistake that helps them and hurts you, oh, look at that, our numbers were higher. Golly gee, I didn't catch the mistake for 5 years. Why? You weren't incentivized to catch the mistake. When it costs you money, you're incentivized to catch it. So perhaps we should change the incentives a little bit. That if you don't catch the mistake, that you get fired instead of rewarded. Maybe we take your bonus back for all those 5 years you were throwing people out of their homes unjustly. Clawbacks, that is so unfair, people in New York and Washington tell me. How dare you even talk about my millions of dollars that I clawing it back? I'll go one step further. Look, if you're affecting people's liberty and their freedom and their house and all these other things, should we at some point consider criminal statutes? And when you talk about criminal statutes, oh no, wait a minute, those are my donor, I know his wife. Well, how about the wives and the husbands and the kids of all the people who were thrown out of their homes? Nobody gives a damn about them. And then they wonder why people in the country are angry.
So, look, they'll argue that this is not, there are no nefarious motives behind it. In fact, a spokesperson came out, a spokesperson for Wells Fargo specifically came out and said, well, these people might have had their homes foreclosed anyway, in the future anyway. Oh, great job. Way to go ahead and demonize these people who, by the way, qualified. They qualified for these loan modifications. But you're gonna go ahead and demonize them for a mistake that Wells Fargo made. But remember, Cenk, you're right. Property prices have gone up considerably since 2010, right? You don't think banks have an incentive to foreclose on these homes? Come on, they love it. They love these foreclosures. They love it because they go ahead. By the way, they're foreclosing on people who have made payments on these homes. They have received interest on these loans. And then at the end of the day, they get to foreclose, take these properties in expensive areas, and then they get to put it back on the market, sell it to investors for much more money. I mean, all sorts of profits are made by these foreclosures.
So they're now complex financial instruments that focus on those foreclosed properties. And so there's a ton of incentives to drive more foreclosures. And if you're curious, like you might say, hey, well, no, guys, wait a minute. The bank makes money if you pay the loan, and that's the whole structure of the business. In some cases, that's true, and it depends on the market. Is it going up? Is it going down? Are there derivatives attached? Are there not? Okay, but you can tell which direction they're going towards based on their actions. So for example, Steve Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary, his company foreclosed on a house of a grandma who they said forgot to pay 37 cents. Now, is that a thing? If you wanted her to pay the loan, would you take her house away based on 37 cents? If your financial incentives were for her to keep the house and paying your loans. It's an obvious, honest mistake. She's paid everything else. It was another glitch. No, they grabbed her home on 37 cents. They just took it. Why? It's obvious at this moment in time in this industry, they make more money by foreclosing on you than by having you pay the loans.
Right, and so that was One West Bank under Steve Mnuchin's watch. That was when he was the head of that bank. Not only did they do that to that grandmother who made a mistake and failed to pay 37 cents in her loan payment, they also fraudulently, they committed fraud essentially in documents to make it seem as though they had the legal ability to foreclose on other people's homes. They had to pay fines for that.
Yeah, so, but luckily the guy who ran that bank is now in prison for that fraud because fraud's a crime. Oh no, right, he's the Treasury Secretary under Donald Trump. He got rewarded millions upon millions of dollars in bonuses for committing that fraud, for overseeing that fraud. And then later he goes, golly gee, I didn't notice it. I'm incompetent. I have no idea what's happening in my institution. We paid a fine, which is a fraction of the profit we made. Isn't this a fun little game where we keep on robbing you and then we get promoted and promoted? And now he runs the whole economy basically as Treasury Secretary. The criminals are in charge. There's no cops on the street. They've taken the cops off and now the bankers run us all. So this is, and it's so maddening when the right wing oversimplifies and then puts it on a particular ethnicity, which has nothing to do with anything. They take it in an irrational direction. They talk about stupid things like the deep state. This is what's happening in the real world because they have a financial incentive and they have, yes, in fact, rigged the rules so that the powerful never get punished. Eric Holder, not just Trump, not just the Republicans, Eric Holder, the Attorney General under Obama, went to Congress and said, well, if we put bankers in jail, that could affect the economy, so we're not going to. Literally too big to jail. Okay, so that's a get out of jail free card. So you just go rip people off as much as you like, and the Attorney General just told you, we're never, ever going to enforce the criminal laws against you because you're too rich and powerful. But you break any kind of law, you do any infraction, and you're a regular guy? I mean, we did an injustice series at TYT. I was just rewatching one of them. Guy, so they claim he sold pot. It's not even clear he did. Life sentence without parole for pot.
Yep.
Okay, 37-cent omission. It's not like she didn't have the 37 cents. She was trying to pay all along. They take your house. You get crushed every step of the way. Why? Because they captured our government. We don't have a democracy, so your representatives don't represent you. They represent who? The people who give them money. It's not a conspiracy, it's right in the open. We allow for private financing of elections. So the donors buy our government, they rig the rules, so they get everything and you get screwed. That's the reality of how the system got rigged. And that's why we desperately need change. So when it's the Republicans or Democrats who go around telling us, no, just little tweaks here and there, just tiny little change. But if we're back in charge and the establishment is back in charge and the system goes back to the way that it was, everything's gonna be fine. No, it's not. Unless you do fundamental change to the system, they're never going to represent you. You gotta get your democracy back. That's the answer.
Let's take a break. When we come back, an incredible story involving bankruptcy among the elderly in the United States and Marco Rubio's nonsensical solution to all of it.
What a monster. I mean, Rubio, as you'll see in the next segment, is in some ways more monstrous than Donald Trump. Because you could see Donald Trump coming from a mile away. Rubio is the kind of monster applauded by the mainstream media. We'll explain when we come back. All right, back on the answer. So many comments. We keep them rolling throughout the night, including election night. Lots to cover here. MathFreak71 writes it on Twitter. If the Just Democrats bat 300 tonight, we should celebrate. If they bat 500, we should lose our minds. If they bat anything higher, we should party like it's 1999. Hashtag old school reference. That's right. And in Politico with their snide little articles. By the way, they still haven't written about the Just Democrats. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, picked by the Just Democrats.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
She wouldn't have run otherwise. What, Politico, where are you at? Where are you at?
Can I add something to that quickly? So Pod Save America, one of these podcasts by former Obama officials, it's gotten a lot of positive attention. I gave it a shot early on and I was like, not into this because they were very dismissive of just this new wave of progressives. And I want to give them some credit because they have admitted that they're wrong. They recently interviewed, I know, Ocasio-Cortez. And no, but here's the thing. It's because we're winning, okay? So
exactly.
whether or not they're being genuine, that's not the point. The fact of the matter is they realize that they're losing people with their pro-establishment message and it's not working. Politico hasn't caught on yet, but the fact that former Obama officials have means that we have to keep fighting, we have to keep pushing, we are winning on some level.
Yeah. Look, Jimmy's gonna be here later. We can rant about it. But look, the Pod Save Americas of the world, they're not bad people.
No,
they're really, really good people. And there's no way I wouldn't get along with them if we went out for a beer. And I've met them once, got along fine for 2 minutes. And I went on one of their podcasts done by a person who's great, et cetera, who's been on this show. But they're just faking it. They're playing along. They're the ones who were trying to prevent these victories from day one.
Yeah, that's
now
true.
to turn around and pretend you're celebrating it and you're like, okay, great. Then are you out there talking about Brant Welder right now? No, you're not. Are you talking about James Thompson right now? No, you're not. Are you talking about Kanyela Ng right now? So don't give me this horse crap about like, oh yeah, we just realized it, and we're on board now. No, you're not. Where are you? Are you in favor of Cori Bush? She's up against an incumbent, Lacey Clay in Missouri. No, you're going to be for the incumbent because that's who you are. So let's just keep it real, okay? And they're not here for you. And that's why they're celebrated in Washington. In Washington, like, people barely know the Young Turks, but they're like, "Pod save America." That was Obama, people. Obama. They were writers for Obama, and they love all of us. And they say Hillary's wonderful, wonderful, right?
Yeah.
We like them so much.
Yeah.
You Young Turks are rabble rousers.
So, like, how do you feel about them, though?
Okay.
I can't tell.
All right, Gabby Marita 6886 writes in, if we're going to buy into the stupid fiction that corporations are people, shouldn't Wells Fargo be going to prison right now? Good question.
Oh, such a good point.
You know what, Gabby, you get a t-shirt. I don't know what the new system is. Dan, like, help me out, brother. Okay, but anyway, so you're supposed to email something. Anyway, here you go. Okay, this is one of the shirts. Vote right now.
But not that exact shirt. That's Cenk's shirt. That would not fit Gabby Marita.
No, this would fit almost no other human being. Okay, but go vote. And I love this shirt. It's made by one of you guys. You are the Young Turks. I got to go through some YouTube super chats real quick. Bio says, just got back from voting for Abdul El Said and David Benak. Get to it. David Scarlett says, guys, dun is Bond. I know we've been through this in the post games. TYT.com/join to become a member in here. And he says, bump, is Mission Impossible. But here's my favorite part. P.S. Anna, best hair mistake ever.
I know, thank you. Not that I know, I only know because you guys said it. I was really self-conscious about it in the beginning.
Just 3 more here. Little Mac, after tonight, the establishment can't ignore progressives anymore. Let's get her done. GR, thanks El Said campaign for polling with a personal text. If you're in Michigan, vote, crush the establishment, vote El Said, cry establishment, cry. El Said race, look, we've talked about it a lot, but not enough. As soon as the election night starts, coverage starts, I'm going to do a couple of dramatic announcements right off the top, and then I want to talk about El Said because he is a true threat to the establishment. I have no idea if he's going to win. I called a welder race, but I don't know if El Said's going to win, and he is up against some massive foes in Michigan, and if he wins, that is a great harbinger, and he's a fantastic candidate. Last one, Brent DeCorn says, rob $100 from a gas station while threatening to shoot a teller, life in prison. Rob millions of dollars through a bank and ruin hundreds of lives, bonuses.
Yep.
All right, let me put up graphic 57 here. These are the 13 Just Democrats that are up for election tonight. Almost every one of them has been on the Young Turks and Rebel headquarters. And of the 12 out of the 13 that have been on, we love them all. Well, I love them all, but I want them all to win. And whatever you do, please, if you're in any of these areas, go out and vote. Also, Ohio special election. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. A new study by the Consumer Bankruptcy Project indicates that a record number of elderly individuals are filing for bankruptcy, and many of them are doing so because of crippling medical debt. Now, according to the findings of this survey, the rate of people 65 years and older filing for bankruptcy is 3 times what it was in the early 90s, 1991 to be exact. From February of 2013 to November of 2016, there were 3.6 bankruptcy filers per 1,000 people 65 to 74. In 1991, there were 1.2. So we're gonna get into some of the statistics that were shocking, but I wanna be clear about something. Social Security is a government program that Americans pay into and are entitled to. It is also a government program that prevents elderly people from ending up on the streets, ending up homeless. According to the findings of this study, there are elderly people who are spending about 44% of their Social Security checks in paying for medical bills, okay? So we have a real problem in the country, and this is an important program that helps people that Republicans consistently fight to cut because they want to continue cutting taxes for the wealthy. So just be completely aware of what's going on here.
So this is actually a great article by the New York Times. And yes, journalists in this country do wonderful work. And sometimes not great work, but you have to celebrate it when it is good. Because why? It's loaded up with facts and it starts to get you headed in the right direction. I want to give you the facts and then I also want to do our job, which is analysis. It's written by Tara Siegel Bernard. And one person she quotes is Cheryl McLeod of Las Vegas, who said, I'm 70 and I'm working for less money than I ever did in my life. But she added, this life stuff happens. Cheryl, it doesn't. it's not happenstance. It happens because the system was rigged against you. And I know when I say that, people on TV go, no, how dare you? It's our beloved friends who built this system. Well, your friends built it to rob people. So let me explain how and why in this context, okay? So as the writer here points out, some of the forces that are affecting the tripling of bankruptcy rates for senior citizens in this country is, first of all, longer waits for Social Security benefits. Why? Because they passed laws saying that you have to wait longer to get your Social Security. They said, we had to. Well, you didn't have to if you didn't keep going into wars that cost trillions of dollars. You didn't have to if you didn't give tax cuts to the rich over and over. No, you chose to. It was a choice you made to make people wait longer, in which case they don't have the money in those years that they need it, and part of the reason why they go bankrupt. Point two, there was a replacement of employer-provided pensions with 401k saving plans. Now, some of that is okay, and some of that it turns out okay, but sometimes it turns out you have less in your pension because of that. Another reason why you go to have more bankruptcies overall in the country. And then there's more out-of-pocket spending on healthcare, which we're gonna talk a lot about, okay? And that's been an enormous factor. And why? Well, when you even ask for a public option, let alone what the rest of the civilized world does, which is single payer, all the politicians bought by all the healthcare companies through their donations and independent expenditures said, no, you are not going to help the American people. I need to make a profit. And now those systems cost twice as much as they do in places like Canada and Japan, and we get worse service. And one of the consequences is that all of a sudden, 3 times as many senior citizens are going bankrupt. They're in the streets since 1991. It was not a mistake. It was not done on purpose to crush people. That was just collateral damage they didn't care about.
Exactly.
As they made more and more money and cost you more and more money.
There are so many, I mean, this is based on anecdotal evidence, obviously, but this story, this report draws a broader picture, real evidence of what's happening in the country. I mean, how many elderly people do you see on the streets in Los Angeles right now? There's so many. So look,
but now we have the facts.
Now we have the facts, exactly.
Because they're going bankrupt at record-breaking rates. Do you think all of a sudden the senior citizens in this country just became irresponsible? Because that's the absurdity that the Republican Party mainly pushes, but sometimes people on TV, the pundits and the Democrats go along with that framing of like, well, personal responsibility. What, all of a sudden all the seniors in the country became irresponsible overnight? What an incredibly unnuanced and unintelligent thing to say. No, it is the market forces that they created.
And I also want to just quickly mention an important distinction between Social Security and other retirement savings accounts like 401ks or IRAs. Look, 401ks, IRAs, those are all tied to risk. They're all dependent on how the stock market performs. And that is a scary thing to consider when you look into artificially inflated stocks, which is exactly what's happening right now. There's a bubble going on with these markets, and it's gonna come crashing down, and people who are relying solely on a 401k are gonna suffer as a result of that. Social Security is not tied to these risks. So it is a way of ensuring that people have something to hold them over while they're retiring. It's so important. Okay, so let me give you some more of these details. So, this study asked the respondents, what is the reasoning behind your bankruptcy? Why did you file for bankruptcy? 3 in 5 said unmanageable. Medical expenses played a role. A little more than 2/3 cited a drop in income. We talk about stagnant wages a lot, but when people get older, their earning power decreases. People are less likely to get hired as they get older, unfortunately. Also, nearly 3/4 put some blame on hounding by debt collectors. So the median household led by someone 65 or older had liquid savings of about $60,600 in 2016, whereas the bottom 25% of households had saved at almost $3,260. I'm mentioning that because if you think this is a problem now with our current elderly community, it will become a lot worse in the future because people are having a harder time saving right now. Consumer debt is at a record level right now. So this is a problem already, but it will only get worse if we don't do something about how this system is rigged right now.
Look, the only good news that comes out of this is as I was reading this article, I thought, we're going to get Medicare for all, because we are, as a country are traumatized by either not having insurance or the deathly fear that we are going to lose insurance at some point. And either we're just going to give up and say it's not a democracy, just let the donors run things, and we'll just keep getting shocked, and it'll go from 3 times, but eventually to 6 times as many senior citizens out in the streets, and we'll turn into a barbaric country run by oligarchs. Or we're going to fight back and we're going to win, because people can't take this anymore. 3 out of 5, 60% are saying they're going bankrupt as senior citizens because they can't pay their medical bills. No other developed country does this, where it terrorizes its own citizens, where you're literally afraid for your life at all times. There's a guy in this story that has Parkinson's, and then all of a sudden, the rules change on him. He was collecting, he had medical insurance through a union because he got hurt at a job, etc. They take that away from him. All of a sudden, his bill goes from $70 a month to over $1,000. Well, he can't afford that. So he hasn't been taking his medicine for 3 months. You know what's going to happen? He's going to deteriorate, and then he's going to finally die, because we live in a brutal system that doesn't give a damn about you and that doesn't care about its citizens. The only thing it cares about is the donors. So they're letting you die out there. 15.5% of this country has no insurance at all. No other developed nation tolerates this. And by the way, you think it's cheaper? No, it costs twice as much. Our healthcare as the other countries. Why? It's going into the pockets of the few.
Yeah.
That's how the system's rigged.
And just to give you a sense of how much these people have to pay for health care, even though they have Medicaid, or Medicare, I should say. By 2013, the average Medicare beneficiary's out-of-pocket spending on health care consumed 41% of the average Social Security check. So look, we have to do something about this. Let's go to graphic 29. For about 1 in 3 older people who receive Social Security benefits, their monthly check accounts for 90% of their income. Republicans are coming for that program. They want to cut that program. They call it an entitlement because they think that that's a way of demonizing it, but it is an entitlement because we've paid into it. We're entitled to it.
And look, again, I'm giving you a lot of credit here because it's a wonderful story, and that does come out of the media. But also the rest of the media, stop playing neutral. Call things as they are. Paul Ryan, immediately after the giant tax cut for the rich, said we have to do entitlement reform of Social Security and Medicare. So yes, absolutely, the Republicans are coming for Social Security. That's a fact. They say it all the time, but you cover for them. And you go, well, I can't quite tell. Now, if you were to say, hey, Obama also proposed to negotiate with the Republicans when he was in office and proposed to cut Social Security, you are right. And you should report that. Instead, beloved Obama. But he proposed to cut Social Security. Why? He also gets the money from the donors. The Democratic establishment does their role in this game is, oh golly gee, the Republicans made me do it. And here they are again. Look, let me be more accurate about the guy I was talking about earlier, Lawrence Sedita. He's 74 years old. He's a former carpenter living in Vegas. It used to be $70 for 3 months of coverage. Okay, you could do $70 for 3 months of insurance coverage. Now it's $1,100. He has Parkinson's. He can't afford it. He's been in his house shaking the whole time. This is what we do to people in this country. And then they wonder why you're angry.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it is the responsible thing to do to give you an example of a Republican who has his eye on cutting Social Security benefits and essentially dismantling it. And that person's Marco Rubio. So let's do this story. Marco Rubio is proposing legislation that would allow new parents to take family leave, which is great. That is something that's been debated in politics, something that Ivanka Trump says she cares a lot about. Except Ivanka Trump and Marco Rubio have a plan that would essentially take money out of your retirement, essentially making you wait longer to retire just so you can have children and take a little bit of time off to take care of those kids. So this new bill under Rubio's Economic Security for New Parents Act, parents could apply for at least 2 months of leave across their household. So that's the good part. But how would this happen? Expectant parents would apply to the Social Security Administration, and after the birth or adoption of their child and the provision of additional documentation, they would receive two monthly payments of equivalent size. So that's interesting. Why would you reach out to the Social Security Administration? Isn't this an issue that should be legislated so employers offer paid family leave? Well, here's what the cost would be for us, the American people. The cost will be a 3 to 6 months delay in receiving Social Security benefits. So if you want to have children, cool, we'll pass legislation, we'll propose it and hopefully pass legislation that will give you paid family leave. But it just means that you're going to be borrowing against yourself and against your own retirement.
So this is robbing Peter to pay Peter. So the people that it hurts the most is women. Because I'm pretty sure it takes two to tango, but when you need maternity leave, because you're the one having the baby, they say, oh, no problem. But 2 months now costs you 6 months later. So women now have to work 6 months longer than men, and they don't get that money when they retire. How about the guys who also caused that baby? Well, maybe some of them took paternity leave, but most of them probably didn't. Sad day for the women. You're gonna have to bear extra costs.
Yeah, look, this certainly does hurt women more, but it hurts people overall, right? If this is the solution that they're looking for in order to offer paid family leave, this is gonna hurt all of us because Republicans, some Democrats have already fought tooth and nail to defund, dismantle Social Security. This is just another way of weakening it. This is another way of increasing the age at which we can retire. And so what's left? I mean, you play by the rules, you work hard, you do everything by the book, and then what's left? If you're lucky, if Republicans have their way, you'll retire and maybe you'll be able to do it at what, 70, 75?
So understand why they're doing this, okay? Because other developed countries pay for maternity leave and paternity leave out of taxes. So when you do that, it affects everybody. But let's say you were to increase taxes by 1%, that's not a number that matches this story because that would be way too high to pay for this. You'd have more than enough money for if you raise it by 1%. But okay, but if you did that, well, okay, that's 1% from you, but it's also 1% from the rich, and that's a lot of money to the rich. It might not be a lot of money to you. It matters more to you because it's a bigger, it hurts you more because you need it more. But the rich don't want to pay it, so they say, hey, don't take it from me. I don't want this, to be a collective, community where we all fight together, live together, work together for one another. No, if you're gonna have a baby, that's your problem, not my problem. I don't want you to take it out of all of our taxes, and not just their taxes. You'd also be your taxes, right? No, I don't want that system because that touches me, right? So what do I want instead? I want you to take it out of your Social Security so you keep going back to the mines. You go back to work and work for us at $7.25. Story in the New York Times that we covered earlier, a woman in her 70s had to go back to work, working at a home for people with mental disabilities, getting $8.75 an hour.
25 cents. $8.25, age of 70, working at an adult daycare center for people with mental health disabilities.
Back to work because people don't want to pay taxes. Marco Rubio's donors do not want to pay taxes. So you take it out of your Social Security, and you think this is the only time they're going to do it? No. Once they set this precedent, anytime they need any money, they're going to say no taxes for the rich. No, just take it out of Social Security. Take it out of Social Security until you're retiring at the age of 75. In other words, you're not retiring.
But Cenk, haven't the rich done incredibly important things with those tax savings?
Well, to be fair, we did cover Betsy DeVos's 10 yachts. And by the way, we talked about the story. Some guy did something they shouldn't have done. They untied one of her 10 yachts. It's a $40 million yacht. It got $10,000 of damage. That's like, I guess nothing if you had a car, that'd be so little you wouldn't even fix it. Okay, relative to the price of the yacht. And I saw on TV after we covered it, they're like, this is the beginning of revolution and violence against the rich. Okay, look, they shouldn't have untied the yacht. But literally, they're worried about their 10th yacht. And that's why you got to go back to work in your 70s, making a little over $8. And then they say, yeah, but give me more out of your Social Security. Give me more out of your Social Security. 90% for 1/3 of senior citizens, 90% of their income comes from Social Security.
Yep.
Without Social Security, they are screwed. And they're not screwed like, hey, there was minor damage to their 10th yacht. They're screwed like they got to go back and work at minimum wage. And they still can't pay the bills. And now their bankruptcies have tripled over the last several decades. And they don't know how to pay for their medical bills. Their lives are ruined. But Marco Rubio not only demands credit, but gets credit from almost everybody on television. Like, bravo, doing something about maternity leave. No, he's not. He's redistributing the money so that you pay more and his donors pay less. At least you see Trump coming. Rubio is the kind of guy that not only gets you from behind, but gets applauded wildly by everyone on television. Bravo, Marco Rubio. Here's a Republican who cares about women. What they don't tell you is how much he's robbing them on the back end when they're going to retire. But that's decades from now. And Marco Rubio will already be incredibly wealthy. And at that point, they'll say no one could have seen it coming. Stuff happens. No, this is what happens, and they don't care about you.
Let's take a break. When we come back, people who voted for Trump, who now regret voting for Trump, spar with those who still support Trump.
You're right in the middle of this podcast. We got another great segment coming up for you. If you'd like the full show, which is actually 5 segments, go to tytnetwork.com/join. You become a member, you support the show, you support independent media, and you get the whole 2-hour show ad-free every day. Let's go do it now. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. I'm going to try to read as many comments as I can. YouTube super chat, Kellen Whitaker says, JD's for the win, plus Anna for the win. Love the gorgeous new hair. Keep fighting. You're my hero.
Thank you.
Harley O'Donnell finally tuning in live from the UK. Keep up the fantastic work. Thank you, Cenk, for making me laugh so much with that America sound clip. Also, please restock your Clanbusters hat soon. Okay, we're gonna try, we're doing the best we can. ShopTYT.com, things do sell out, and then it does take sometimes a little time to bring them back, so just buy them now, okay? My favorite is this one, and it's perfect for today. Vote, it's the blue wave, it's the blue tsunami. It's got ballots in there, it's gonna wash out the White House, that's in the background. You know, I forgot to tell you, you know who's wearing the Vote shirt, not this version, but a slightly different version? Brent Welder sent me a picture of his mom who'd come to canvas for him wearing a Vote shirt.
I like that.
Oh, that's awesome. ShopTYT.com. And Harley, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. And here's this one for you. Okay. Now, Mark Keister says, Cenk, if Bernie runs, will you please challenge him to expose Harris for not prosecuting bankers such as Mnuchin? Mark, don't you worry your soul. I got this. Okay, we're not going to forget that. Abaxrux, impossible to understand your name, but you understand I'm referring to you in YouTube Super Chat. America already has a single payer as a disabled veteran, TRICARE Prime, annual deductible none, annual enrollment fee $298.08 for individuals, $578 for family. Doctor visits are only $20, primary care $30 specialist, ambulance is $40. It works. It works, they just won't let people in, right? Same thing for Medicare. And then Harley O'Donnell again says, 80 to 90 pounds per month automatically comes out of my pay for healthcare in the UK, but if I earn less, I pay less. My only out of pocket is 8 pounds per prescription. Keep up the fight for nationalized healthcare. I wanted to give you that in contrast to Sage and Candle, who writes, I have intractable epilepsy, leaving me bedridden for days. My Social Security is $940, 80% for housing alone. I have nothing left for medical expenses. We brutalize our own citizens. Look, good news is, yes, 13 Just Democrats up for today. And I interviewed 9 of them yesterday. And so many of them yesterday and in days past. They're canvassing, they're knocking on doors. That's the our way of winning, right? We don't have money for all the ads, but we do have volunteers that are going and knocking on those doors. Do it now, by the way. The polls have not closed. Please vote today. And there's all the just Democratic candidates, and then there's Democrat up in Ohio as well. If you want to check it out, justicedemocrats.com/candidates in your neck of the woods. Okay, so what do they say? They say when they're knocking on doors, it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans. People are saying, we got to fix the health care. We're dying out here. So do you like the idea of Medicare for all? They're like, yes. We know people who are in Medicare who are above the age of 65. That's a good system. They love the system. Medicare for me? Yeah, I'm in, right? We just got to reach those voters. If we reach those voters, we win. So let's see what happens tonight. All right, what's next, Anna?
All right. One of my favorite things that Alison Camerata does on CNN are these focus groups where she asks Trump supporters how they feel about specific policies. Now, I think this is incredibly important because it gives you an idea of how much the supporters know, what it is that they like about him, what it is that they actually defend about him, and they're asked specific questions. So this latest focus group was particularly fascinating because it had a combination of current Trump supporters and also individuals who voted for Trump but are now regretful for doing so. So with that said, let's take a look at the first video.
Why are you more excited today than you were?
I came in with some trepidation based on his previous record. He's the most pro-life president we've had, more than Reagan. He's done a substantial job protecting the Second Amendment, securing our border, deporting illegal aliens. He made a list of promises. He's coming through on many of them.
I think it's disingenuous to say that President Trump is wholly responsible for the bifurcation that we see across party lines right now.
But is he helping it?
I don't think that necessarily some of the things that he says could be said in a more polished manner.
My issue with this president, who I voted for, is the fact that he has something negative to say about every other leader. But you try saying one little comment that's negative about Trump himself. He jumps into a fit and he has this Twitter tirade. We have a lot of I have to be crass about it, idiots who voted for him, including myself at one time.
I take great offense. I'm not an idiot. It's a wise decision that people voted. It was a wise decision for Michiganders, for Wisconsinites, for Pennsylvanians, for working Americans who were tired of jobs being taken away, shipped overseas, or taken by illegals.
God damn, he couldn't have proved her point any better than he did. Our jobs are being taken by the illegals and our jobs are being shipped abroad. Harley Davidson shipping jobs from the states that you mentioned to other countries because of the tariffs that Donald Trump imposed. So you cost yourself jobs and you think that the undocumented immigrants are the ones that rig the system because they're so powerful? They got no power at all, you schmuck. The people who are rigging the system are people like Steve Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary for Donald Trump, who ripped people off and foreclosed on their houses and made millions of dollars doing it. Donald Trump is the swamp, and you moron are sitting there going, oh, I like what he's doing because he's cracking down on the illegals that have all the power in this country? At least one person there recognizes more than that, but in that clip, one person recognizes, hey, and it's true, by the way, not just of Donald Trump, but I'm sure that in your own personal life, you've seen this too. The people who are the most aggressive in attacking others, if you criticize them, thinnest skin in the world. Like, oh, how dare you?
Right, that is absolutely right. But what I think is interesting is, look, do I think that guy is an idiot? I don't think, okay, hold. I don't think he knows all the things that you just mentioned. Look, the frustrating thing is when you try to have a conversation with someone who is misinformed, as that guy is, right? And you try to explain to him what Steve Mnuchin did when he was the head of One West Bank and how he he committed fraud to foreclose on innocent people who shouldn't have been foreclosed on. When you try to have those conversations with these people, if they just flat out reject that evidence and that information, well then, yes, I think it's fair to call them whatever name. But I think that, look, that kind of stuff isn't covered in the media. You think that aside from the New York Times covering that story about a record number of elderly people going bankrupt, you think that cable news is covering that?
No, I know. So look, I'm torn and I vacillate between, hey, you schmucks. I mean, just read one goddamn article, right? But they say, no, fake news. Donald Trump told me all the facts are fake. So I'm just gonna close my eyes. So I can't help but call them schmucks and idiots, etc., because they're actively rejecting facts because they care more about their feelings. Donald Trump makes me feel good, like I'm going to be back. I'm a right-wing American, and I'm going to be back in charge, and I'm going to get the illegals. That makes me feel good. Oh, it's actually Donald Trump that cost me my job? Those facts are uninteresting to me. Well, what am I supposed to call you? Now, on the other hand, yes, I know you're right, and I say it all the time. If you actually got them facts and they actually listened, they might have a totally different point of view, and the media oftentimes does not help, not by being gentle to Trump voters. Obviously, I'm not doing that. But by covering all the bad thing, quote unquote bad things he said, and we cover that from time to time too, no question about it, because it's so outrageous. But those guys like that look at that and go, I don't see the problem. He's attacking the people I don't like. I kind of love that, right? No, snap out of it, media. Tell him how they're actually hurting his wages and maybe costing him his job.
Yes.
Because those are the realities.
Yes.
And that he could actually have health care for his family if he didn't vote for Trump. But instead, you keep telling him that Trump hates Latinos and he thinks, great,
yeah.
I hate Latinos.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know about that particular guy, but you could tell in how he refers to the illegals over and over again.
Look, I don't think we're being unfair if we say that he hates the illegals. I mean, if you are comfortable with what Trump did at the border with the zero tolerance policy, you hate illegals. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Ripping children away from their parents. Okay.
And so you can say, all right, one more time, undocumented immigrants, you can say, look, they shouldn't cross the border illegally. There's a legal process, et cetera. It's a nice privileged thing to say, I got it. And I came here legally, my family did. But we had a little bit more money, so it was a nice privileged thing for us to be able to do, right? We weren't desperate and running from violence and trying to protect the lives of our kids and willing to do whatever it takes. Okay, fine. But even that, I'm saying that's an acceptable position. But you keep calling undocumented immigrants the illegals who are taking our jobs. No, you hate them, man. You talk about ripping their kids away from them they were desperately trying to protect, and you think that's a good thing? Now you got hatred in your heart. Even if we agree, hey, we got to stop it and we can't have them crossing the border and we've got to figure out a way to make sure that they don't cross the border, you don't have to do it with malice. And when you do, you betray yourself and your real motives.
So let's go to the next video.
I apologize to the nation for my vote for him. It was the wrong thing to do. It was the biggest mistake I ever made. Like I said, he is a racist.
Why do you believe he's racist?
Why do I believe he's racist? Look what happened in Puerto Rico. He said, oh, they want to just cry and, they needed help. Just because they're not white skinned, he doesn't want to go down there and help them out?
So I take great offense to the fact that you felt the need to apologize on the behalf of the entire nation, because that also seems that says to me that you are invalidating the validity of my vote.
No,
and I think the reasons why I voted for Donald Trump is because, based on my perception of him, he is not a racist, and he has done so much. He has done so much.
Okay, so to the guy saying that, I assume that the end of that sentence was, he's done so much for African Americans, and presumably based on the job market, that's the thing that Donald Trump and Republicans say all the time. The economic recovery, including adding jobs, started 93 months ago. Improving the unemployment rate for African Americans started 93 months ago. It started in 2010 under Barack Obama. For you, and that trend continues, it has slowed down under Trump. It has not abated, and we're fair. We say, hey, look, he didn't crash it yet, okay, but he didn't crash it. So I'll give him some credit for that. So he's gone almost 2 years without crashing it. Honestly, that surprises me. I would have thought he would have crashed it by now, but he hasn't. We stick with facts. But if you think that he started the economic recovery and caused the economic recovery for African Americans in this country, you just literally have no idea what you're talking about. It's not remotely true.
Besides which, it goes beyond the unemployment number, which we've talked about on the show repeatedly. What about wages? What about consumer debt? What's really happening with the quality of these jobs? Are they full-time jobs? Are they temporary jobs? Are they part-time jobs? A lot of them are temporary. A lot of them are part-time. A lot of them do pay very little. So, like...
Yeah, look, sorry, just one more thing. Look, some of the stuff, if you don't know it, I understand. Like, if you don't know that Donald Trump wanted to prosecute the Central Park Five, even after he found out that they were innocent, and he thought, he said they must have done something anyway. That's an unbelievably really racist thing to say about minority kids who were wrongly imprisoned for all of those years for a rape they did not commit. We found the guy, his DNA matches, he confessed. Trump says, I don't care that those minority kids were not guilty. I want him back in prison. He says that, why? Because of his assumptions about minorities. Why does he say about Puerto Rico during the hurricane, they were lazy and they didn't want to help themselves? Because he's racist. But maybe you didn't hear the specific comments about how Puerto Ricans don't want to help themselves and they're not working hard enough, as he gave them less money to recover from the tragedy than he did for Republican voters in Texas, etc. Maybe you didn't see the Central Park Five, but you saw him call countries that are black and Latino S-hole countries. You've seen 1,000 things he's done. You've seen him call Latinos rapists and criminals and how they're all like MS-13.
He doesn't find it interesting that Trump reserves the insult of low IQ and stupid for black people and black people only.
Maxine Waters, Don Lemon. Gee, I wonder what connects them.
LeBron James, yeah.
LeBron James. And for that guy, the dumbest president we have ever had by a landslide, including George W. Bush, to call anyone else stupid. I mean, that should be an affront to your sense of logic and rationale. But you sit there going, oh, how dare you call him racist? Okay.
So this next video is my favorite. Allison Camerata does challenge a Trump supporter here. Take a look.
I work with a lot of Hispanic evangelicals who are very pro-life. Hispanics care about God, family, jobs, education, top things for us. President Trump is delivering on those things.
Right.
So all this other rhetoric, rhetoric of, oh, he tweeted this or he did this, I don't really care about that.
You don't care about that.
I care about God.
You're free to care.
Family, God, family,
understood,
jobs,
great.
and education.
And you made a great point about that. And so, as somebody who is driven by her faith and cares about God and family, do any of the personal peccadillos give you pause? The Playboy model who was paid off, the payments to Stormy Daniels, the lies about affairs. Does any of that give you pause?
You know, we are taught as Christians to be forgiving. I'm not going to get into his personal life. That was not something that I weighed in to go vote for him.
Does it make you
anything was better than Hillary?
But
absolutely.
When you hear about the Playboy stuff, does it make you uncomfortable?
No, I'm not here to judge about what he did on his miscellaneous activities or what he was doing outside of his bedroom. That is not what I voted for him to do.
The world's largest hypocrites. I guarantee you, every one of those people were like, I can't believe Bill Clinton disgraced the White House by having a consensual affair. But now, and lying about it, now Donald Trump lies about it through his teeth, might have broken campaign finance laws, have other people do payoffs for him, and sleeps with porn stars while he's married and his wife just had a kid. And on it goes. And now the person who cares about God and faith all of a sudden doesn't give a damn about family values and never did. Never did.
I just want, if we can, I know this is a little different from what we usually do, play the beginning of that last video again, where she talks about the importance of family. Let's just play that again. I want you guys to listen carefully to that.
I work with a lot of Hispanic evangelicals who are very pro-life. Hispanics care about God, family, jobs, education, top things for us. President Trump is delivering on those.
So do Latinos care about families being ripped apart at the border as they're seeking refuge and asylum in the United States? Do they care about that at all? I mean, really? You don't care about family. I don't know what she really cares about. She obviously works with evangelicals. She mentioned it in that clip. But you can't claim to care about family when you're supporting a president who specifically rips Latino families apart at the border as they're looking for safety to protect their children.
She's brainwashed. She's brainwashed into believing that the abortion is the only thing that matters. And so if you're an actual baby, who cares? You actually have affairs, who cares? I don't care. All I care is that I've been taught that the only thing I'm ever supposed to care about is a uterus. Now, you don't even know why you were taught that. You were taught that because they wanted to control women. They never cared about it before. That ideology began in America in the 1970s. They used it as a political gimmick to try to trick people like you, and it worked. So you don't even know what principles you think you have. You say, oh, family. Then we show you that Trump has violated everything you ever said you cared about family. And then you go, I don't know, they told me abortion, uterus, whatever. I'm sheeple, I got programmed.
She cheated on every single wife. He's had children from 3 different women. He cheated on Melania immediately after she gave birth.
With a porn star, raw dog style. If a Democrat had done any of that, oh my God, here's what Hispanic evangelicals care about, and white evangelicals and all evangelicals. We care about family values. We care so much about family values. I can't believe Bill Clinton had a consensual affair and then lied about it once after being challenged. Just look, if you're ever gonna say about that it's okay for Donald Trump, all I need is one simple thing. I'm sorry. Just say it. I'm sorry for being an incredible hypocrite about Bill Clinton. Like, I was wrong. Apparently, I never cared about family. Just say it. I never cared about family values. Never cared. And so I'm sorry. Say that and we're done with it. I don't give a damn who Donald Trump slept with either. I care that your wages are low. I care that you don't have health care, and I care that he tricked you into voting for things that are actually against your economic interests and that are gonna actually hurt your own family. That's what I care about. But I can't stand your hypocrisy where you pretended to be against people based on the fact that they were Democrats, and you don't actually have any principles. Just admit it and let's move on.
Yeah. Let's move on to a break. When we come back, conservatives fighting tooth and nail for Alex Jones while simultaneously wanting to do away with press rights.
Thanks for watching or listening to this free version of the Young Turks podcast. You know that the full show is at tytnetwork.com/join. If you become a member, you get the full show ad-free. We love you for watching or listening either way. There's gonna be a new free podcast tomorrow. You can keep on doing that. But if you wanna get the full show ad-free, tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.